Do you like horror games? Well, I don't, at least when it comes to playing them. Whenever I do, I usually open the game, load a save, and quit because the dark hallway was looking at me funny. But recently, I've been trying out some new things and thought, hey, why not give this a proper try? So I looked through my options and settled on Still Wakes the Deep. After some fair bits of chilling moments and a gripping emotional story, I think I can summarize my experience pretty well and give an accurate account of what to expect. Still Wakes the Deep takes place on an oil rig off the coast of Scotland, owned by company Cadle, which suffers a severe case of workplace safety hazards. We take on the role of an electrician named Cameron McLeary, usually referred to as Kaz, who, like any good father, is on the run from the authorities and left his wife and 2 children behind to work on Barra D, which is the name of this rig. The game starts with him receiving a letter from his wife, Suze, which states that he done fucked up. Kaz, however, said it'll be fine and moved on with his day. Quickly, we are introduced to a bunch of people who are all violently Scottish. It is for this reason that subtitles are coming in pretty clutch.
No, I can scalp in this here all by myself. No, we're alright. Cheers though.
Among said characters is the godfather of his children, Roy, friend Finley, and a bunch of others whose names I can't remember. No time for introductions though, as the big man Rennick wants to have a nice little chat with Kaz.
McClary, to my office. That means now, not as soon as you're ready. Now.
On his way to Mr. Blood Pressure, Kaz chats a bit with the people on the rig and helps them out if he can. The personnel maintaining the drills seem to have an unexplained problem, but it is sure to be no more than a mechanical issue. As Kaz meets Rennick in his office, he is greeted with a nice load of fuck off and is sent back to the mainland. Not all goes as planned though, as the rig is suddenly hit with a shock of some kind as Kaz is about to leave. A desperate attempt to save a fellow crewmate fires back as Kaz is also knocked off the platform, falling into the icy North Sea. Luckily, some folk were able to fish him out and save him. As he awakens though, something seems off. From here on out, Barra D becomes a stranger and much more dangerous place by the hour. Faced not only with a dangerously crippled rig, but also with an unknown horror which has been lurking in the deep, Kaz has to try to get off of it in one piece, all the while saving as many people as possible. Will he survive, the odds increasingly pitted against him? Still Wakes the Deep is very simple when it comes to its gameplay. You have your common movement controls with crouch, jump, and sprint. You interact with objects using either E or by using the left or right mouse button respectively. It doesn't sound like much, and it isn't. It doesn't need to be. Still Wakes the Deep makes great use of its environment as well. Since you are trapped on an oil rig that is falling apart, the environment shifts and changes. You often revisit the same places, however they will have changed. Either an environment is flooded, you need to find a different path through, or something lurks within that wasn't there before. And this idea works really well across the board since you are in a very confined space, so there is not always the option to just add another area. This obviously allows for a lot of interactivity with the map. At first you mostly walk around the place as it is still in pretty good shape, but the further the platform deteriorates, the more difficult the terrain becomes. There's no shortage of jumping, swimming, and climbing. But the environment is not the only dangerous thing around now. Whatever has caused the rig to slowly sink has also affected the crew. When you can, you try to hide and move through the shadows, distracting with thrown items to create noise. Hiding is not always an option though, and when it comes to that, your legs better carry you quickly. Combine all of that with the occasional chat with a fellow crewmate over the phone or in person, some absolutely gorgeous visuals, and an amazing soundtrack, and you've got yourself a pretty thrilling experience. Thrilling, however, isn't horror. So my question is whether or not Still Wakes the Deep is a sufficient horror game or falls more into the thriller category. Well, to be honest, I'm not sure. On one hand, you have moments where you feel relatively safe, and the next moment you have to hide from something supernatural that isn't friendly at all. On the other hand, you have some intense chase sequences or moments that just have you on edge. I would say it leans both ways, and it does so in a pretty good way. But I say I was scared playing the game? Yes, initially. Did I get used to it? Yes, after a while. Did that make it any less intense or interesting? Not at all. I think Still Wakes the Deep has a somewhat similar vibe to The Thing. In that sense, I almost had the feeling as if I was in a movie, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Still Wakes the Deep is a horror game that tells a story. A story that has you invested in the characters as much as it has you invested in its developing mystery. It definitely had me on edge a few times, and I had moments where I definitely didn't want to do the thing I had to.
Fuck.
Still Wakes the Deep is a very engaging story with a fun gameplay experience and an absolutely stunning scenery to go with it. I'd say it is worth giving it a try whether you play horror games or not. As for me, I now realize that I probably have to play games that are a lot scarier. I'm open to suggestions, and oh boy am I looking forward to what you've got in store.